What cheese is the favorite of software developers? Processed cheese, because it is easy to compile. That was today's cheesy joke of the week, brought to you by Bing. Bing, 33% quicker to type than Google. Hello and welcome to Game Revolutions, the series where I write an 80s style video game and show you all the steps and missteps. I've been working on those swarming Fiblas for quite a while, and it was time to do something new. So today, I would like to design a big boss. I'm thinking something like a big spaceship with these layers of rotating shields that you have to shoot through. My usual design tools are not quite up to the challenge, so today I wanted to try something a bit more natural for pixel art, but would still provide the ability to transfer the result into the assembly language. There won't be much assembly language in this episode, it's mainly about design. The only problem is, I can't draw. Well, I've been working for a while on these Fiblas, and I thought it would be fun to add a new element to the game. So I'd like to add a big boss that kind of shows up in the sky, and it's going to have some cool things on its spaceship that you have to shoot through, but I need to draw it. And my old way of drawing things, well, it's a bit rudimentary. I just kind of use a text editor and draw things out in there, just to give myself an idea. And then using that as a reference, I just write some basic code with your typical basic commands like line and pset. And then from there, I convert it to the bytes I need to add to my assembly code. But I was hoping that someone in the community might have some good advice for me on something I can use that's a bit easier than a text editor. For example, Simon Jonassen made this SGEdit editor, and you can pick the semi-graphic characters that you want to include, and you can make designs using those characters, including alphabetical. And this is kind of exactly what I want. I just want this for P-Mode 3. And when I asked on the Coco Discord, I got a variety of responses from people who use all different kinds of tools, including Adobe Photoshop, a fairly new tool called Pixie Editor, and even Microsoft Excel. But special thanks to Tim Lindner, who mentioned GIMP. GIMP is the open source tool that I use for all of my thumbnails, and it makes doing things in separate layers and transparency nice and easy. But I'd never used it to actually do any drawing. I would always just import a bunch of pre-created PNGs or JPEGs that I created elsewhere, and then use this to assemble things and resize things. In fact, I didn't even know it had drawing tools. How could I have used this for so long and not even realize that there are drawing tools in here? Well, I suppose I could be forgiven for this oversight, because how could anyone be expected to know that there are drawing tools? Why, you would have to press the pencil or the paintbrush. How could someone possibly find something so hidden? So to start with, I wanted a layer that just had the backdrop of the game. So I grabbed some of the old basic code that I used to originally draw it, and at the end, I save it. So this savem command takes all the bytes starting at the beginning of screen memory, going through the entirety of screen memory, and creates a file on the virtual floppy called fullpic.bin. I then used Toolshed to go ahead and copy the binary file that got savem'd into the virtual floppy and extract it onto my local hard drive on my PC. I then wrote some Java code to take that Coco bin format and convert it into a bitmap. The heart of the code is taking each byte from the Coco bin file format and extracting the 4 pixels that get encoded in each byte. Each pair of bits in the byte represents 1 pixel. And since it's a pair of bits, the possible values range from 0 to 3. So I go through each pair of bits, and depending on which value it is, I convert that to a Java color. And then I use these colors to fill out the bitmap format. And voila, I have a bitmap that I can bring into GIMP. To make it look better, I went to the View menu and I got rid of dot for dot. And that allows me to adjust the aspect ratio. If you go to the Image menu and go to Scale Image, you can change how many pixels per inch you want on both the X and the Y axis. So you adjust as necessary, and that's how I got it to look like this. Finally, on the View menu, I can say Show Grid, and then as I zoom in, I can actually see what each pixel looks like. And that means I can go to the Pencil tool, choose my color, and I just have the main colors of P mode 3, color set 0 here, my green, red, blue, and yellow, and I can start drawing. Unfortunately, I can't draw. I don't know how to draw. I have never known how. The artwork you see before you, I probably shamelessly stole from one of the other Moon Patrol clones when I saw a picture of it in a magazine. But even so, that's not a great Earth. Now I actually have to use creativity. Oh no! I don't have visual creativity. I can't even write the word creativity. Well, no matter. There's some other technical things I can do first. For example, when I do go ahead and draw my big boss, I don't want it to be a destructive thing. I want to keep this layer intact. So I added another layer, and I just made it be a solid blue. So now I have my blue layer and my moon picture layer. Finally, I made yet another layer. And I made this one be completely transparent. If you go to the eraser tool and make the size of the eraser really big, boom, it's all transparent. So now if I show the transparent layer and my moon layer together, but I make the transparent layer the front one, I can go ahead and draw just on the transparent layer, but my moon layer remains intact. So I can change my mind as much as I like. Okay, now I have to draw something. So I started down one path and I said, no, I don't like that. And I went down another path and drew kind of like a spaceship thing, and it was like, yeah, that's kind of what I want, but that ended up kind of small. So I made it bigger. I guess the idea is you kind of like have this very powerful Fibla who's in the spaceship and he's doing some nasty things. But I have a kind of cool idea. I want sort of this bottom part to be like a rotating shield. And so you're going to like see each of these rows like rotating to the left or rotating to the right or rotating to the left or rotating to the right. And then you shoot up and then you see your bullet holes kind of rotate around and you got to keep shooting, shooting, shooting. And so you can get enough holes that you can make like a path through here and then shoot the Fibla. Kind of like that thing in Yar's Revenge. So all of that extra stuff, that's going to be happening in a combination of BASIC and the assembly language, but this is going to kind of be the main model. So to get things working, I used only my solid blue background layer, and I moved the ship up into the upper left. I saved that out as a bitmap. I used my Java code to convert the bitmap back to a Coco 2 bin file, and then it was time to write some BASIC. The BASIC code loaded that bin file that I converted the image to, and then it started painting some designs into that shield area that the assembly language code is going to start rotating. And when it was all done, it did my usual trick of flattening it out into a bunch of bytes, poking them elsewhere into screen memory so it could save them back out. So here you can see kind of the flattened version of that being poked into screen memory, so it has something to save them out. And check out all the fancy doodads that I added here using the power of BASIC. Like I said, my visual creativity leaves a lot to be desired. but whatever. And finally, it's back to Java to use that code that I already had, where you can pass it that flattened binary file, and then it will generate a series of FCB lines that you can paste into your assembly code. And here it is, all of the boss data. Next time, it's back to the assembly language to get those bytes to show up on the screen. And then we try to get those shield layers rotating and rotating. Until then, thank you for watching.